Hey, Kate and Will, thanks for joining me. Before we get started talking about local gov Drupal, do you want to introduce yourselves? Let me know who you are and what you do, and then if you could also let me know your favourite kind of pie. Kate, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Kate here. I'm the Senior Manager for Digital and Customer Experience at Cumbria County Council. So I'm responsible for the website, for our low-code service design function, and for wedding ceremonies. And I've also just taken on a new function looking at intelligent automation. And my favourite type of pie is steak and ale.
Steak and ale, very nice. No kidney.
No, definitely no kidney. That would not be good.
I find that it's not awfully good myself. But that is a very, very, very strong choice. Any particular views on the type of pastry on that, or just
no
whatever?
Particular views on the type of pastry, but a nice Cumberland ale, sticking up for my Cumbria roots with that.
That sounds very good. And do you, just before we move on, because I know this isn't what anybody's interested in, when it's a pie, are you happy when it's just a lid of pastry on top of the thing, or do you
I
want
like it when it's lid with puff pastry and it goes soggy? When it hits the gravy. That's my favourite type of pie.
So there we go. That's some interesting stuff on there. We might talk about weddings later if we get time. Will, who are you?
This is about the most surreal interview I've ever done. Thank you.
It will get better, I promise.
Why did I sign up for this? So I'm Will Callahan. I'm product manager, product lead for Local Gov Drupal, and I work. The lead counsel for Local Gov Drupal right now is Cumbria, and I work for Kate, and we're having a jolly good time doing work there. I'll tell you more about that as we go, I guess. My favourite pie was going to be steak and ale, and now I'm a bit stuck. So how about chicken and leek pie?
Very, very good combo. I must say, I'd be tempted to sneak a little bit of ham in there with that as well, though.
Ham and leek.
I think so. Yeah, just for the saltiness. But that's a really, really nice choice.
But the lid question, it's a lid.
Yes.
It's not a pie. It's a dish with a lid on top. That's not a pie in my.
Yes, I agree. When you're eating a pie, do you like to get it open first of all and mash it all up with everything else, or do you leave it intact? You're a masher.
I'm a masher for sure. Yeah,
nice one. I agree. I am too. Fab. So we're here to talk about, other than pies, we're here to talk about Local Gov Drupal, which is a fantastically successful, I think, MHCLG funded project. Will, do you want to go first, because you've been involved in this for basically all of time? So what actually is Local Gov Drupal, and where did it come from?
So hopefully people on the call will know what Drupal is. So Drupal is an open source publishing system. Anyone can go and download for free whatever components you need. You can create whatever sort of website that you want to create. So we found that councils have very specific needs, a lot of which is satisfied by Drupal core and some of the contrib modules that are in it. There's actually quite a lot more that's not provided for. That's what Local Gov Drupal does. So you can go to localgovdrupal.org or to our GitHub. You can go to get it from there. And if you know a little bit of Drupal, you can download it today. One of our developers did it in 15 minutes. And it provides all the components, all the content formats that you need to make a GovUK website, to make a local council website. And it's got lots of cool formats in, a lot of it is sort of GDS flavored. So they've got something called Step by Step, which is lovely. And we've got a version of that. It's got directories built into it. It's got guides built into it. And there's a lot more of that to come. And it's all free. So it's pretty good. How do we start? So I think it's the idea starting in a few different places. So and it was people meeting and talking about it that really made it happen. And your good self, Dave, and other people at Coin, and we'll get to that. So I used to work for the Government Digital Service, and I worked on the Whitehall bit of GovUK, which is the government department websites. And the idea of that was, what are the common needs that all these departments need? They don't need to build their own sites. We can provide one platform for all of them. And Neil Williams is the product manager for that project. I mean, it was not really talked about very much, but all the time I was there, I was thinking, well, this is like a local council website, isn't it? really. Their needs are very similar to government department needs. So are we doing anything for that? And I think there was just too much at GovUK to do to take on something like that as well. So it kind of really didn't go anywhere. It wasn't really talked about and didn't really go anywhere. But that kind of stuck with me. And then I think a couple of other things. So I got a job at Brighton and Hove City Council. And I found out very recently that they've been talking about this for ages. And I just didn't know. So there are people there who made the choice to go to Drupal. I don't know, 20, I'll be getting this wrong, 2008, 9. The whole point was they wanted to get into a collaborative space. And I just didn't know that they'd done that. So I arrived thinking, okay, well, I've been given this job to build a new website, not realizing there's a lot of pedigree before. And there was also one of our suppliers, Alec Miggle, who's brilliant. He'd been thinking about it for a long time. There's a good blog post about him cutting grass for another council. I'll find a link to it. But he said, if I can cut grass for another council, I can build them a website, surely, and we can share websites. And he suggested it to me and my boss, Ali, at the time. You know, we're building this thing and other councils might want to use this. So why aren't we using it? Why aren't we open sourcing it? And I think that was the start of it. It was somebody saying, we don't have to do things the way that they've always been done. We can actually take a step back from this and think about how we can share this stuff openly. And that was really good. And I can go on about this all day, Dave. So just
I mean, you've been talking quite a lot. So, but that's fine. That's fine. I did ask the question.
I guess the last part of this is going from an ideal to make it a real thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I worked for Croydon Council for a time that needed a new website, and Brighton had one. And again, it's that question of are we just going to build this again from scratch, or can we just use something that's something already built? And I think it's the vision of bosses, senior managers saying, do you know what, we're not precious. We can give this to another council and they can use it. And you know, the people made that happen are you, Annie, you know, people at Croydon who'd gone and have those conversations with their opposite numbers at Brighton. So the chief exec, people like Phil, you know, I mean, people won't know who all these folks are, but you know, those people getting in a room saying, do you know what, this is fine. We can actually do it and no one's going to get hurt. And from there, we were able to start building. I mean, Tom as a product manager in Croydon,
Tom Steele,
accepting this, you know, that he was going to inherit something. He'd always wanted to do it as well, I found out. So, you know, inheriting a thing that's not all going to be yours, it's going to be something that's coming in where some decisions have been made, and you've got to be okay with that. And he was. So going from that to say, okay, well, we can get some CLG money, we can apply and see where we go. That's really the start of this. I'm sorry that was so long.
No, it's fine. No, because it's all really, really interesting stuff. And I mean, you know, you know, how much of a difference did the fact that central government through MHCLG and the local collaboration fund, you know, how much of an impact did that have? The fact that actually there was quite significant financial backing to make this a reality.
I don't think it would have happened. I think we were run out of steam before we got to the point where it was real. So, you know, you can take Brighton code, which is described in a Brighton way, and all the classes have got Brighton something, or when we inherited it, they had, because it was never intended to be a generic thing for everybody. Yeah. You can take that and you can Croydonize it. You can change the color of purple to a slightly different purple, but that's not a platform that people can build on. 2 can, 10 can't. So the fact that they are able to fund us in discovery to say, okay, is this even a thing? Do people want to do it? And then fund us again in alpha and say, okay, now that we know that it is, we're going to help you genericize this code and really make, you know, do the technical architecture work to make this a thing. And now we're in beta to say, okay, well, you've got a pretty good platform, but how do you grow this, scale it? How do you make it sustainable for the future? Who's going to pay for that if not them? No one. It wouldn't have happened. So we're really great. And the digital declaration is a document that describes that. You know, we ain't gonna keep on reinventing the wheel. We're actually going to stop and look and see what people are doing. And it might be we don't want it, but actually we've looked. At least we've looked. And I think that needs to become the norm, you know.
Totally right. I think, of the sort of the three big things I think around the digital declaration, which is working collaboratively, sharing and reusing, and then working in the open as well. You've got to say, I think local gov Drupal is probably the best, the exemplar of that kind of way of working. So that's a really good background. Thanks for that, Will. Kate, just before we get on to what's happening in Cumbria, with your pies, do you go for mash or chips, would you say?
Oh, that's really hard.
Or a bit of both?
Bit of both would be good. And some kale.
Greenery, interesting.
Yeah, kale, and then take the lid off and put it all in. That's the key.
And then pop the lid back on. This is disgusting. Will, chips or mash?
It depends what day. I'm a chips mood or a mash mood.
Fair enough. Chips on a Friday.
Yeah, and definitely veggies as well.
Nice one. Would you go for this horrific chimera approach that Kate takes with the lid off, pile it all in, and then stick it back on again?
I think in an agile and iterative way, I need to try.
Yeah.
I'll report back and then I will make changes as a result, Dave.
I think it's a slippery slope. I think once you start doing that, it will be in between two slices of bread before you know it. Anyway, so Kate, how did Cumbria make that decision that local gov Drupal is the way forward for your content management needs?
Okay, that's probably quite a long story as well, so I'll try and make it as short as possible. So, like a lot of authorities, we knew that we had to do something about our website. We've had the same content management system for quite a long time. I wouldn't like to say how long. I think we've got a bit stuck in our ways, not really innovating, not really changing it, refreshing the design, but not actually fundamentally addressing the real problems that the website's got in terms of making it easier for people to do stuff. So we knew we were going to have to do something. So we started to basically look out there to see what options we had. And we looked at the usual suspects, and we could have gone down the procurement route and got another proprietary CMS and done the same things all over again. But, that doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with the way we want to take our services. So kind of looking around to see what other people are doing. And I've made contact with Will, was it about 18 months ago, maybe 18 months ago, out of interest in terms of, why would we reinvent all of this stuff if there was something out there we could use? I think the problem for Cumbria was because we've got so involved in using this CMS for so long, we've got quite a limited skill base and we've got limited capacity. It's got a very small team of people, not a lot of investment in the website to date. So, looking at what we could actually deliver in Cumbria effectively. And, we were signatories of the local digital declaration and really keen to try and demonstrate that meant something. It wasn't just a tick in a box of a document. So looking at working with other people and looking at trying to not just learn from what other people are doing, but sharing the stuff that we were doing in Cumbria. We'd had quite a lot of success doing that on the low code element of it. And we wanted to try and grow that across other elements of the service. So local gov Drupal was just a perfect fit really for what we were trying to deliver.
Brilliant, sounds good. And just out of interest, because this used to be a thing not that long ago, were there any alarm bells expressed anywhere about the open source nature of the system, or were people pretty much embracing that?
So I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a few raised eyebrows and a few conversations around that. I don't think anyone would try and deny that there's still some people that feel that that's a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
And it is a bit different, particularly somewhere like Cumbria that we haven't been at the forefront of kind of doing a lot of this stuff in recent years. That's changing now. We've got a lot more proactive people that are wanting to do different things differently rather. But there was a few concerns expressed.
Fine, but you're able to swap them away with ease by the sound of things. That's absolutely
with
brilliant.
Relative ease.
Relative ease. Okay, fine. Excellent. That sounds good. So, so whereabouts are you in the journey in terms of implementing local gov Drupal?
Well, we are imminently going to go live with our alpha site, which is really exciting. So we've got some support from some people external to the organisation to look at not just the technology, but the content was really important for us in Cumbria, and some design work as well. And we chose a discrete section of the Cumbria website that was big enough to be able to demonstrate all the different components and different templates that local gov Drupal's got. So that we could really kind of proof of concept stuff around this is what you could have if we go down this route, not just of the platform itself, but taking a totally different approach to looking at designing content properly for the website. So we've focused in on the births, deaths and marriages section of the site because it has enough in it to be able to demonstrate everything, and also because part of it is in my gift to be able to influence. So we spent about 3 months working on that, and we're imminently going live hopefully next week if we can get all of that sorted out by then, which is touch wood, we're nearly there. And we're going to launch that and try and get some feedback. There's a feedback form we're going to build in, and also look at some analytics through our service centre in terms of phone calls to demonstrate the impact. So yeah, it's really exciting.
It is. No, that's absolutely brilliant. And so is the plan then so once that bit of the site is live in alpha, will you be sort of moving people that, you know, from the current site over there when they enter that section, and then they come back again for all the other stuff? So it's like an iterative kind of rollout.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Totally.
Brilliant. And so is the plan then to rewrite all the content on the way through and redesign it all, or are you taking a mixed approach to that?
We're probably going to take a mixed approach. We do have quite a large website at the moment, and I do not want to rewrite the whole thing, because that would just, probably not talk about that too much because I'll start crying. But we're gonna take a very much prioritised approach to looking at what we need, the high impact areas of the website to start with, and kind of move those over first, and decide what we're going to do with the rest of it later on.
No, that sounds really, really sensible. Brilliant. That's great. So Will, just coming back to you. So if another council wants to sort of implement local gov Drupal, they make the decision that that's the route they want to take. What are the kind of sort of resources and capabilities that they need to have available to them to actually be able to make use of this thing? Because a bit like you said at the beginning, you could just download it and presumably find some Drupal hosting and upload it, but you ain't got a council website, have you? So what do you need really to get going?
So you definitely need a bit of hosting, and you need support for that. You know, this thing needs to be resilient to run a Gov UK website, you know, which your council will have a lot of already. You might well be on AWS or Azure. It works on both. We've built sites on both. And if anyone wants to talk about any of that, we've got a lot of expertise to sort of get people started. Then you do need to know what you're doing from a Drupal point of view. But you don't need to know a lot, because there's a difference between developing and building. You know, you can fire this thing up. As long as you can install it, you can build a lot with Drupal. You don't necessarily have to script a lot. So that will get you quite a long way. You need some design skills, although we've recently created a brand new base theme. You can make changes to the base theme and get something pretty good in, you know, that much code, making a sign that much, Dave.
So that changing the colours and the logo and that kind of thing.
Changing the logos. It's very lightweight. It's AA accessible. We didn't have that, 3-4 months ago. We've now got that as well.
Brilliant.
And then you need, so that will get you going. But we recommend that you put some other disciplines in this as well, because otherwise you've got a very static website that doesn't do the job for your users. Content design's the biggest thing. We just keep coming back and back and back to that. And we're finding actually councils spend less on technology now because this thing is free and they don't have to license it, and they have to build less because we've built a lot of it already. A lot of councils are putting that into content design instead. Yeah. So they're not reducing the overall budget. They're spending it on good people to do a better job explaining what council services are and thinking about user journeys and so on. So if you've got a content designer or somebody wants to be, push them to the front of this because they'll really get a lot out of it. And then I think you definitely need a bit of product and delivery to get the thing rolling. Yeah. But maybe that's one person. It's not necessarily two. If you've got a good web manager, they will get started with this. I think what you absolutely need, if you want to play ball, if you want to collaborate fully, bring some skills to the table that no one else has. So there's not enough user research in local government or service design or data analysis. Even with the skills we've got centrally, we don't have enough of those kind of people. So if you've got a good user researcher, you're in. We'll be your best friends. We need more of those kind of people. Yeah. I think you wrote a blog post about this recently, Dave, which I thought was great. It's what can you lift off with? Actually, this much. What do you really need? This much. So in terms of budget, Kate doesn't mind what we spent on the alpha. It was sub 30 grand, and
Right.
most of that was content design. There was not much on dev and design. We've seen people create whole new sites and move the content for less than 60. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that because I'm not sure what kind of state the content is in. But, you know, you could have a site like this tomorrow for very little, you know, if you've got skills to hand, nothing, it's just staff time. If you need to buy in, it's a few days here and there for the essentials.
Yeah. Interesting, Kate. So you know, without wanting to sort of go too much into that sort of detail, for your team in Cumbria to get this done, what are some of the capabilities you had to bring in from outside the organisation to make this work?
Well, obviously we've had, luckily to have Will supporting us from a product perspective. We've had
Right.
a content designer, interaction designer, and some technical support. That's what we've had to launch the alpha. My team don't have any skills. They've never used Drupal before at all. So they're busy in the background kind of teaching themselves, learning. You know, they've spent some time with the content designers and with the technical guide to try and upskill them a bit, but they,
Yes.
you know, they're just learning on the job really. And we've also, I think, the biggest issue for us is trying to maintain our existing site whilst doing this work as well. So we've got to try and get a balance between having resource to do that and having resource to do the new
Yes.
stuff and trying to upskill at the same time. So I think that's the biggest learning curve for me in terms of what resources we need moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. So exactly, you can't let the old house burn down while you're building the new one. That's the problem, isn't it? Great. Now, Will, this is something you mentioned, or you briefly touched on just now, talking about user research and stuff. And you know, it'd be remiss of us talking about how exciting the technology is without acknowledging that, you know, good digital is about culture and process and stuff as much as it is about tech. You know, the various sort of templates and stuff that have been built, whether it's the step-by-steps or the other things, have they been based on, you know, user research and good service design and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's not all done at the same time and done by different people, but take step by step as an example that Croydon built, working off good GovUK GDS design patterns that had enormous amounts of time and effort put into them. And that's one of the nice things about having such a good UK national government website, is you can always go and look at what they're doing and say, okay, well, we'll mock something up along these lines and then we'll research it ourselves and we'll find out what's going on. So there's been quite a lot of that. There's a kind of service architecture, so service landing pages and then service pages. That's probably the only thing that hasn't been user researched a lot, but it was based on GovUK patterns at the time when I worked there, you know, when they were doing sort of browse pages in that way. So it's all been done. It probably needs at some point, you know, one council to go back over all of it. When Westminster and Royal Borough of Kensington Chelsea came on, they did a lot of work on it, which we've looked at and acted on, but it probably needs another one at some point. You know, get to the end of the beta and we might run the whole thing again just to sort of reaffirm. But the nice thing about it is we've got time and a bit of money to do this.
Yes.
Like if you're in a local council, when are you going to get funded to do this? Just, you know, doesn't happen. All projects always run out of money before you get to the good stuff.
Well, indeed, yeah. And going back very briefly, just on the open source bit of it, because I think that, you know, local government actually has used a lot of open source software in the past, and it might be that I'm being slightly unfair, but I'm going to carry on anyway. In that it tends to do so in the as a consumer of open source rather than a contributor, I think. And you know, the thing that makes an open source project interesting is the fact that people can, you know, have their own code added into into it, and they can improve it themselves so that everybody can benefit from that. So where are we at in terms of the various parties that are involved in local gov Drupal? How many of them are contributors and how many of them are consumers, and how's that sort of working out?
In terms of GitHub pull requests and the number of developers we've had, so we've probably got sort of 15, not really counting the sort of agency folks that we work with in a beta project, probably got sort of 12 to 15 developers from councils that are reviewing. Lots of reviewing goes on before code gets committed, and I'd say maybe half to 2/3 of them have made a pull request for something. So it's pretty good. I mean, some are more active than others. You know, like Adnan in Croydon is just a living legend. He's done a lot. Andy in Brighton's done a lot. Dan in Cumbria has done a lot. So you've got standout people who do a lot.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, part of our work for the rest of the beta is to try and make this, we'll recognise it. You know, to your point, it's not just about taking, it's about giving. You know, give what you can and really celebrate that. But also make it as easy as possible to get more devs in and all the other disciplines. You know, let's provide the space in which they understand what it is we're trying to do, deliver against that, and then celebrate the fact that they have.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sounds
good,
fab.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, no, it's exactly how it should work. And Kate, Will mentioned there that Dan from your team's been contributing some stuff. Is that because there were things that were missing from Local Gov Drupal that you guys really needed, or you know, how did that stuff come about?
I'm not sure it was stuff that was necessarily missing. It was more kind of refining some of the elements of it and making it more easy to use. I guess that'd be fair to say, Will. Yeah, it wasn't kind of, there was nothing that we've needed to develop that wasn't there. It was more just kind of just making it so that Cumbria could use it in the way in which we needed to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the stuff we provide is default. So we've just redone all the workflow stuff. It's a lot more comprehensive than it was when we started with it. But then you don't have to install the workflow modules if you don't want to. You can go and roll your own. And I think that's what we're going to see, is that we don't quite like this, we'll use it as a base, or we'll just go and do our own, or we want to do events this way when the distribution does it that way. And probably what we'll get to is maybe there's a couple of ways of doing everything, and it's very easy to go and do your own thing if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that sounds really, really good. Brilliant. Great. Well, as I say, I'm a massive fan of the project, and, you know, it's absolutely amazing to see just how many councils that are involved in it now. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I think the other thing, we were chatting about this before the call started, is that we're starting to hear from some other suppliers of Local Gov technology that they're now talking about Local Gov Drupal, and the fact that they're now thinking that they need to be able to integrate with it, they need to be able to work alongside it, goes to show that you know that sort of the market can be affected by work like this, which is exactly the kind of change that we need to see in the sector, I think. So, Will, as the sort of the product manager, product lead for the project, what's next?
So it's probably not going to sound that interesting. So, because we've built most of the features that we need. So I think in terms of features, there's something called subsites, which is it's the conundrum that every council has, where somebody comes along and says, "Can I have a new site, please, for something?" And you're just going, "Oh, no." But actually, no, we've got some tools here that means a content designer could create one. So we're quite close to that.
Right.
And interestingly, we don't have to do all this stuff centrally. So we know, and we're in touch with Lambeth, who are doing a ton of work on this. And I think a lot of that will make it to the distribution and everybody will get the benefit. That's probably the biggest. Owen Forms, which is being led in Croydon. So what's the distribution's answer to the what's the best way to describe it? The forms that you have to churn out every day.
Yeah.
So you need to do this now. A content designer needs to do this now. Drupal Web Forms is a good answer to that, but it's a bit complicated out of the box. It's too much. What's the stuff that you really need? So we're doing some work on that, or rather Tom and Croydon and Brighton are. So we're doing that. But outside of that, it's actually about sustainability. So we want councils to be able to set up, if they want a new feature, they're going to set up a group on their own and bring in the councils and suppliers that they want to work with, and give them the space to do that. So how do we do that and give them that autonomy, also make sure it aligns? So it's, you know, belt and braces governance stuff. But also, where's this going? You know, we're 16 councils now, some active, some not so. But what happens if that's 36? How do we deal with that? But also, you know, we are still led by one council. So how do we? Are we our own body? Are we CIC or something like that? We're talking about that. And also, how are we going to pay the bills long term? Because, you know, right now we've had, you know, CLG money, and that's been fab, but that doesn't last forever. So we have, you know, while we've got money, we need to think about how, you know, where are we going with this. So
Fantastic. Yeah,
it's good. It's all positive, and everybody, you know, we've spoken to really likes it. It's helped a lot of people. So
Totally right, and that sustainability thing I think is going to be absolutely key, isn't it? But as I say, if you've got 16 on board already, then there should be an awful lot of sort of goodwill and motivation to make sure that a sustainable model can be put in place. Brill, thanks, Will. So Kate, what's next? So once life events, as some people call it, we don't like that phrase though, do we? Will, I got told off for saying that. So births, deaths, and marriages. Once that's gone live, what's next?
Still to be decided, maybe looking at our highways section, which is high priority locally.
Fair enough. Got to make sure those roads are
all these tourists come and drive on all the Lake District roads, but yeah.
Exactly. They need to know which ones are shut and which ones aren't. That sounds absolutely brilliant. Great stuff. So thanks ever so much for your time, both. If folk want to find out more about the project and how they can get involved, what's the best way for them to do that?
So if you're on Twitter, you can go to LocalGovDrupal, just search for it. We're there. You can drop us an email, hello@localgovdrupal.org, or go to our website, localgovdrupal.org.
Fantastic. And all the details are up on there.
Yes, it works.
Very nicely done. Does that run on LocalGov Drupal out of interest?
It will do shortly.
Yeah.
So there's a doc site which is ViewPress GitHub.
Okay.
But we're building a new shop window which is LocalGov Drupal powered to be up in the next, month or so.
Nice one. Eating your own dog food.
You can use it for all sorts of things.
Well, there we go. Is the answer to everything. Brilliant. Well, thanks again so much for your time, folks, and hopefully yes, lots more interest and things in the project will come soon. Okay, cheers then. Bye bye.